Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining me, Lilly Code, back here for 100 days of code. Today we're on day 63, so the days are flying on by. We're doing fantastic. And where we're picking up from now at this stage is I'm just doing an npm install here on my number 3 handling errors project, because we have already done all the other chapters. We've done the other chapters in previous videos, so we've come back to this meal ordering application now. We already did the handling errors module previously, and now we are picking up from the adding a checkout form. So I don't have that code in yet. We're going to do that together. So just getting, so I should really go and find my exact project, but I couldn't find it, and sure, look, Max's code is the same. We were at the same place, so we're going to continue on from here and see what's going down around the town. So thank you for joining me. We'll just wait for this to finish installing, and then we'll do our npm start, and that'll kick us off for continuing on with our meal ordering application. So I hope you are all having a lovely weekday, morning, evening, wherever you may be, whatever you may be doing. I hope it's going well. Have a smile. That always cheers you up. If you're not having a great day, just smile. It can help. Like literally just moving the muscles of your cheek up sends little sparks off into your brain. So get out for a walk. And I just hope you're having a great day, because it's a lovely day, and that's all really. And if not, sending big hugs and love your way. So that's about that, and let's get started now. So here we go. We have our npm install complete, so now we'll do npm start, which is perfect. This will spin up our project for us and we can continue on. So great. We're making moves, guys. We are making moves. Ooh. Yeah, it's great. Have been flying along with this project, learning a lot. I'm really happy. I recommend you all do the 100 Days of Code Challenge if this is something you are interested in, because you're going to learn so much. It doesn't matter what skill level you're at. You pick what you want to do. So there's no requirement to do anything specific. You just do whatever you feel comfortable with. So I mean, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. Sit you, guys. Oh, don't mind me just making up. Well, I didn't make up any words there. I just said one shortened word. Sit you. Anyway, so great. Let's get going. So I've just have everything running now, and so just to give you actually an overview, this is the meal ordering application that we have been working on. We seem to have something went wrong. I know why that's happening actually. I remember where we left off when we did leave this project. So what we were doing with the errors, so we were testing different things to have a look at what an error would look like. So let's see, where do we get our items for this cart? Is it in our... We use our context in order to store the state. So I'm thinking we should be getting them back in cart. Like, where do we have this fetch statement, that's going and fetching the meals? Probably in the meals, actually. No. So what about in our available meals? Here's our fetch statement. Cool. So everything looks okay with that fetch. We have meals.json. Aha, yes, because this is not our back end. This is Max's back end. So that's our problem. Cool. So once I change this to my own back end, then we should be able to see those meals coming back. So I'll just go to my Firebase here and get the correct URL, because as I did say, I just start running back up from Max's project files, because I couldn't find mine, and I'm not going to run around worrying about where my version is when they're the same. So we go to our real-time database here. I've just been following him, So this is the URL that we need. So I will copy this. Perfect. And then we can paste this in here instead. And now we should get back those meals. So let's save. Let's see what happens now. Do we still have something went wrong? Let's reload. And we can see the animation on our cart. Great. So we're back in the game. Why does it not still pop? Okay. Okay, so excuse me, so we will continue to watch and code along. Maximilian Schwarzmüller's course, Complete React Tutorial, found on O'Reilly. He has many courses, some free, loads of YouTube content. Maximilian Schwarzmüller, his links have been in all the description boxes anywhere I've used any of his stuff, and he is such a good tutor, so do check him out. And I'm sort of coding and explaining what I'm doing based on what he's saying and based on what I'm learning myself as I go, so you'll get a lot of it here as well. So thank you for joining me. So we're going to our checkout. Okay, so now we're going to create a checkout component, because what we want to do is when we come in here, if we add something to the cart, we want to be able to actually click order and go to a checkout component. So that's what we're going to set up next. So in here in our cart folder, we'll create a new file and call this checkout. Should be capitalized to stick with the same naming convention that we've been using this whole time in this project, and also the React naming convention. So we didn't just pick this up off the ground, we did get it from the actual React documentation recommends doing it like this. So another new file, and this will be our associated CSS file. So we'll call this checkout.module.css. Now you could just use a checkout.css here, but the .module gives you different functionality where you can import your entire styles file with a certain keyword and then use that keyword to access the classes with object notation or the curly brackets basically. So you'll see all that in operation now, and we've been doing it for this whole course. So yeah, stay tuned. So I'm going to show you right now. So in here in our checkout.js, I'll do it right now. So I'll import, and we'll import, say, let's say styles. You can call it whatever you want. You just give it a keyword, and then this should be from, and you import it from that particular file. So we'll say checkout, and we just need to actually give it to say in the same folder. So that's just a dot and a slash, and if it's two dots and a slash, you're going out of this folder up to the next folder level, you're going up the chain. So this is importing this particular file, giving it the name style, so now we can access the things in there with this keyword styles. But this could have been classes, it could have been styles, it could be class. You're going to have more than one class in there, so maybe plural, just something that makes sense, like naming any variable or constant, give it a logical name. And then you want const checkout. We're just going to set up this component. As always, it's just a functional component that we're using in React. You can use class-based components as well, but we've been using functional components for the whole project, so we'll continue with that. And you will see it a lot of places, I think more so than the class-based, because the functional approach, as in this is literally just a function. This is a ES6 arrow function, and the function has the name checkout, and we've just declared it. It's a constant function, and this is how you define the whole file in React. It's just a function that you're declaring, and then you export it so you can use it elsewhere in the application. So export default checkout. So great. And then you tell it what you want to return or what you want this function or this component to do. So the return is, what's the result? What do you want to create or, you know, eject back out as a result of actually running this component? So we add a return statement. And what we want to return is a form. So I'll just open up my parentheses here. Everything needs to be contained within one highest level parent div, which in this case is this form. And then we'll add another div inside here. Ay, 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 mamma mia, not the capital here. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just felt like a song was necessary then. And then, so we want a div, we want a label. Label. Cool. I'll keep this all together, and then we're going to want an input underneath. I think we're going to probably make a standalone input component, most probably. That's what I would have expected. So input, But for now, we are just adding our labels and our inputs in here, but this could be extracted into a form input component that then we just inject the name of that form input component in here. Like, for example, in our app.js here, the way we have just meals being passed in, and then if you go into the meal, so this could be an input, and then when you go in, or here for example you have meal summary and available meals making up this meals component, but then when you go into each of these they have more functionality. So that could be something we do with this input and label, is extract that out into its own component. But for now we're going to just put it in here and hard code it, and it's being used in here only for the time being. And then we have a div with again another label and an input. So cool. I'll just close that off, and then we will populate these. So we want class name, and the class name we're going to give this is styles, because that's the name I've given our module.css file, which this is going to allow us to access all of the classes that we listed in there by using this keyword. So styles, all the classes in the checkout.module.css, and the class we want to access is going to be the control class. So that's what we'll add in there, and then we shall add this to many other tags here. So we'll add our HTML4 on our label, and this is going to be for name. On our input we will add type of text and ID type. So these are just standard properties of an input form. Type text, label, or ID, name. We will do the same for our second div here. So this is going to also be classes or style.control, because it's just another control input field. And then we have HTML4, and this is also going to be for a name. Why do we have two? Oh, he copied it. No, he's making this different. Okay. So this is actually going to be street. He had just duplicated then he had copied this and pasted it down here and just hadn't yet changed it. So that's why I thought there was going to be two names, which didn't make any sense. So this is instead going to be street, and type can again be of type text, and our ID here will be street. So we're building a form that we're going to accept people's name and their address on. So we'll copy this again. We also want to get their postcode and text postal. Postal will be the ID here. And we also want to add a city input. So we're getting people's address and their name here. Basically, we're going to collect this data from a form where you input these different values. So this is our checkout form, and city, and then we will just rename the ID here to city as well. So city, perfect. And then we also need to just give actual labels here. So this is what will appear on the screen. So we'll say your name. For street we'll just say street. For postal we will just say postal code or postcode. Postcode, postal code, let's just leave a postal code. And then city. So city is going to go in here, in between these two label tags, which is what's going to output as the label on the screen. And then we just have the other supporting information which is needed for the browser and to access these inputs, to do things with them. That's why we have the IDs and stuff like that. And then we'll also just add a button. So we want to add a submit button. Cool. So we literally will just add a button component at the end of this form now within the form, and this will be confirm. Perfect. So now we have this, we can use this in the cart even though there's not much going on in here yet. It's not really styled or anything, but we'll still just add it. So we'll import our checkout, and we do not need our curly brackets. That actually causes an error, so you have to be wary of that. I got a weird error and I couldn't figure out what it was, and it turns out I had put a component import into an object and it didn't like it, so then I figured out what was going on, but just might take a moment to figure it out, you know. So we're in the same level here, and we want our checkout, and then we want our checkout. Yeah, that's all we need. Perfect. And we'll also render it. So underneath our total amount, which is just here, we'll add in this checkout component and just use a self-closing tag. So there we go. We can see it now. So it does need to be styled, but we can see that that's working. We have created an input, many input forms. So we have the name, street, postcode and city, and it's being injected into our cart component now. Excuse me. So what we also want to do in here in our cart.js is we don't need to show this checkout button the whole time. So what we will do is show it when we actually click our order button. So on our order button here, we'll do a onClick event, and we'll give this a click event a name. So some sort of a handler, a function in order to run when we click this. So we'll say order handler. You can call this whatever you want, but this is handling the click of the button. So that's why it seems logical to give it the name handler. And then up here we can just actually define that. So we will say const order handler, and this is just going to be a function that's going to run on the click of this button. So we can leave it like that for the moment, but what we want to do as well is use state in order to efficiently do this. So we will import use state from React as well. Use state, and then we can use that. So we'll create a content or const use state down here. So const, and you pass in the variable and the function in order to change that variable. So we say is checkout is going to be the name of the variable. So this is just going to be on and off switch to say whether or not we want to show this particular form within the cart, and then we'll say set is checkout as well in order to set that variable from true to false. So that's how you use state, and we've done this many times during this React complete tutorial. Max has really gone into a lot of depth, and it's just wonderful because it's second nature now. It's absolutely fab. So we'll initialize this with the first value of false. So on the first time we run this page, we don't want to show this checkout component, and then we will set it to true when we want it to switch on. So that's why we're initializing it to false, so it doesn't show on the first render of the page. And now we can actually use this. So then in our order handler, when we click that button, what we want to do is use the set is checkout function to set the is checkout variable to true. So you just pass in true in the parentheses like that when we're using use state, and we save that. And now we can use the is checkout state, whether it be true or false, in order to conditionally render this checkout item, because that's how we've set it up now. So now we can say is checkout, and only if we've clicked the order button will this actually appear now, because that's the only time it gets set to true. And then we'll see the checkout component, and the order button only should show if we actually have items in the cart. So you can't trigger this form if you've no items in the cart. It's not possible. So we see here now we have no items in the cart. The only option we can do is close the cart down, which makes sense because there's nothing to order. So if you just close that, and then let's add 5 schnitzels, because 5 schnitzel sounds good to me, and we'll add that to our cart. And then we can see here we have 5 schnitzels at 16.50 each, And it actually does. Hot dogs are amazing. I know it's just a German sausage, so it sounds lovely. And then we have our total amount here, which is 82.50. So now we can see that that order button is now displaying, and if we click on our order button, we get our form. So that's all linking up really nicely there. We're keeping things hidden unless the user needs to see them. It has a logical flow. It's coming along really well. So super. Sorry. Cool. So what we also want to do is hide which buttons. Hide the on close and the order handler buttons. If we are not checking out. If we are checking out, so as soon as we see the checkout component, then we can hide these buttons, because we're going to use our confirm button here in order to add our address first, I think. So let's do that and see exactly what's going to come together here. So down here where we have is checkout, we can add another JSX conditionally rendered block, and we'll say if is not checkout. So if we are not currently checking out, then we could add all of these buttons here within this block. But just in order to keep this a bit clean, it's getting a bit busy down here, we can also pull this out and add it up above, just to keep everything in good shape, just to keep everything a bit clean. So we can literally just add a wrapping div and pull that out, which is very handy. So like we have here, we have these cart items, and we'll do the same for these modal actions. Cool. So we'll literally just create a constant and say modal actions, and this is going to be equal to div, and then in here we will paste not just that function, we want to paste all of that code which I have accidentally cut and lost. Or have I? No. So back to where we were, and I will just copy these buttons, cut these, paste them up in here. Perfect. And now we have our modal actions that we can use down below. So this is really helpful. So we say if is not checkout, then show the modal actions. So let's see that in action now. So I'll save, and you can see now those buttons have disappeared, because first of all we need to add our street in order to be able to order. So that makes perfect sense. So what we will also do is in our checkout component, which is check out where you are around. I don't know what that meant. We'll also add a cancel button here. So we'll add another button and give this a type of button. And this just means that only one of these buttons is going to be, where am I getting all these hiccups from all of a sudden? That this just means that only one of these buttons will be a submit button, and the button that's going to be a submit button is still this confirm button. So here we can add cancel. So in the event that we want to cancel this, rather than going ahead and confirming our address, if we just think, oh, do you know what, actually don't want to give you my address. No, I don't want the food anymore. You can cancel this and go back. So we'll add in that cancel button. Cool, so we want to do the same thing that we did back in our card. Yes, so in our card here we have this on click, and what we're running is props.onClose. So we're going to do something very similar back in our checkout, so that we can also just forward on a function and cancel this action if we want to, you know. So we'll add another on click event here. On click, and we will equal this to props.onCancel. We'll just give it a different name, so we'll say props dot on mamma mia, no payment response. Come on, sorry. I really hope no one's like, you're terrible at that accent. Well, probably a lot of people might think that, but no offense meant by doing terrible accent impressions. I just enjoy it, so you know, get your enjoyment wherever you can, hopefully, once you're not upsetting anyone. So sorry if you think I'm absolutely botching your accent, which I probably am for some people. I won't even say where it's supposed to be from, because it wasn't a good impression. Anyway, cool. So now what we can do is forward on this. Hello everyone. So my video got cut off earlier on and I'm just coming back to this, so let's continue on. So I have this error here on line 22. So like, yeah, this, I went away and came back again because my computer ran out of memory, and then I was trying to fix it, but then I started work, had a great day in work, really nice day in work actually. Super. Keep up with the hard work, guys. It will pay off. You'll find the job that you're very passionate about, and where you have a team that understands you and helps you grow and gets the best out of you. It's just a matter of time. I finally got there now, and my am I extraordinarily grateful to myself for all the hard work I've put in, and to the company for giving me just such amazing support. So keep it up, guys. Eventually you will get there. All my jobs have been great, to be honest. I've really enjoyed all of my teams I've worked on since coding. You know, working in the coding industry has been amazing. Like, it's just so chill. You get your work done, but everyone's just so nice. I've had such fantastic experiences, but this is just icing on the cake. So keep up the work, guys. You will find your troop. So just a bit of encouragement. Anyway, so we have this error here. I've just put this on click handling function on our cancel button here, and what we're trying to do is take the on cancel function from the props, and it's saying that props is not defined, which makes perfect sense, because if we scroll up here to the top of the checkout, we can see we're not passing anything into this component, and that's what props are. They're the props that are coming through when you declare this component. So when I use checkout, I need to specify what those props are. So we need to pass that in. So I'll just add props, and this should solve that problem for us. There we go. Super duper. And let's continue. So if we just have a look at this form here, we can see first we need to add something into the cart, as we do now. So we'll add something into the cart here, then we'll take a look. Then we will click order. Yes, and we see our address form. So we just need to tidy this up a bit, add some validation and stuff. It's looking very rudimentary, my dear Watson, at the moment. So we will clean that up and just make it look better. So that's what we're going to do next. So in our checkout, we'll just add a new function to start off. So we will const create our function. And this will be our confirm handler. And we're going to take in an event here. Yeah. So we'll take in an event. Yeah, we'll add these into our parentheses because we're going to pass through this event. It's an arrow function, and then we're going to need to use this event. So we'll say event.prevent default because we want to prevent the default action. This is an inbuilt JavaScript function that you can use for certain events when you want to prevent the default behavior and do something yourself. So that's what we're going to do. And what we want to do is validate the user input that's going to come in on these forms. So we'll add validation. Enjoying my tea as always. It's not chai today. I don't even know what it was. I found a stray tea bag. That's so weird. I have like loads of herbal teas, and there was just like all the boxes are there, and there was a tea bag that had come out of one of the boxes, and I just felt a bit on the adventurous side, so I said I'll try this tea bag. Realistically, like it's just a tea bag that fell out of the box, but there was so many boxes there I didn't know which one it was. I think it's green tea, but I'm not really sure. Oh, it's nice anyway. Have some tea, guys. Could it be chai? No, I think it's green. Okay. So, anyway, enough about me and just finding random tea bags and brewing them in my own kitchen. Cool, so Max is after providing us with some CSS, so we'll just grab that. So Max, where you got the CSS? Yo Max, where you got the CSS? I said, whoa Max, where you got the CSS? Gotta style my components, because that is the best. Okay, so if we go to the finished files, clearly he should probably have them in here, because this should be the completed version. So we will go to our components. We are in our, this is a modal, checkout module. So cart, checkout.module.css. Let's grab all of this, baby. We want it all. So I will just copy this entire file contents, and we can paste that into our own checkout.module.css, which at the moment is blank. So we'll paste that in, save, and let's just look at the effect that this is already going to have. This is going to improve that quite a bit for us. So there we go. It looks far more like a order form as opposed to just a really badly laid out piece of code. I don't know why these buttons are not going for us, because I presume, so we don't have any, but yeah we do. Buttons, actions, yeah, we called our our class actions. No, we haven't given it the class name actions yet, so we just need to do that. We'll say class name. So I'll just show you what was going on there, my thought process. So basically when I come to look at this form, I see that these forms have indeed been updated, that some styling has been applied. They're looking good, they're looking great, you're looking good, baby. But then these two buttons do not have any additional CSS on them, and this clearly isn't how the buttons in our application are looking so far. We have a bit of a style to our buttons. They're big, they're roundy, they're juicy, they're great buttons, guys. They are great buttons. Nobody joking. Oh, but they just don't look like this anyway, just a standard little grey button. So therefore, when I went to my checkout.module.css file, and we'll just close down number 7 because we're done with that. We're looking at the one from our project, which we fired up from number 3. So because we had already done the previous work. So, and I couldn't find where my file was that I had created myself from 01 to progress to 03. So we're just hopping in here at 03, that's fine. So we can see here we do have classes outlined for our button. It's there. So why is it not being applied? That's the next question. And why it's not being applied is we can see that this is nested inside another class here, and this class is called actions. So this is saying for all the class names of actions where there is a button then. So these two things need to go in conjunction. So we have not yet specified the class actions anywhere, because if we come down here to our button, all we can see is that we have a type of button and that we have an on-click function. We don't have any class names. So if we just add that in, class name equals, and then the name of this needs to be an equals here. That's why that's given us a big old red error. So we can see here we've imported this checkout.module.css file with the name styles. So that's how we can access this. Because it is a .module.css file, we can do this. We give it a name, we access it. So we stick that name in here, we do dot, and then give it the class name that we want to apply. So it's going to be actions. Yes. Yes. So if we save now, go back and have a look at our form, order, Don't do this to me. No, I'm only joking. So yeah, I don't know why that didn't work. So maybe button. Maybe button, yeah, and the action should wrap the whole area. So got that wrong, guys. Actions and button are two different classes. If this was nested, it would have an arrow or something. I'm not even sure if we can do that in CSS. We can do that in CSS. So maybe now this will actually work, because if they were switched, I think button should have come first and then actions. So let's just see. I'm just figuring this out here so I can fully explain it, but I know I'm on the exact right track. We will get there in un momento. So don't you worry, guys. Okay. So what should actually happen here? Sorry, my throat's a bit weird. So what should actually happen here, guys, is actions and button are not two different classes. Button is just calling out the tag. That's why it doesn't have a dot. So anything with a dot, this is an actual class name. So actions should work, but button should be targeting all the buttons on that page. Por favor, explain me more. So we're missing something else. That's not what we're missing. I thought I was on the right track. We are on the right track. We are. So let's split this and take a closer look. Split wherever you want. Just go somewhere so we can take a look at you. So our form needs the class name of form, because we can see here that this is actually a class. I'm sure of it, because if it was just form, like as in the form tag, we would have it like this. So let's save and see now if that will. Let's go back first of all here and keep this on our button. So what did we have? We had actions, because yes, actions is a class name because it's denoted with dot, and this is how we access the classes within our styles, and this is how we call out CSS different styles for our classes with the dot. We're saying this is a class. So now tell me, mamma mia, grazie, please, sorry. I just like doing accents. So yeah, that's getting worse and worse as time goes on, isn't it really? Have a look at this now. Great job, Leanne. Oh, look at the styles. So we'll just go back a minute and just stop messing about and continue with what Max was doing, because your girl's wrecking it. So we'll put our dot back in here, and look, it's all going to become apparent, and we can come back to this. We do need those button styles, so that's fine, but you know, messing about, although no, yes, I'm not going to keep going backwards and forwards. I was going to say, look, I'm going to just fix this, but hopefully just from going through it and explaining it, like, those things are correct. That dot is for a class, like here. So this is the control class. If we go to our checkout module, you can see we have a dot control class. This style is applied when we then go styles dot control. We're calling out that particular class that we have named here. So that's why those styles are being added. And let's try and add, like, that should be calling out all the buttons on the page. So our actions class should wrap all of our buttons. So we need a div around this div. Let's hope and pray, baby J. Don't know who that is, but we're praying to him. So we have a div here. I'm going to say class name equals styles dot actions, and actions is going to be wrapping all of our buttons because we're performing an action, we're clicking a button, so that makes sense. And then if we tab these in just to keep the indentation correct and save, now, ooh baby, ooh baby. So yeah, we can see we have like somewhat a better button. Ooh, nice. Okay, so I'll just leave this. Perhaps this is exactly how these are intended to look. I think they look great. So yeah, like that, like this, like that, baby. Okay, that's enough messing. So let's continue on. Oh, sure, look, you have to get your kick somewhere, don't you? So we will continue on and see what else Max is about to do. Cool. Ah, so he literally just went on to say he wrapped the buttons in an extra div, and I'm just like going around the place, messing about the place. So we will close everything here because we just have so many things open, and then I'm gonna open back our checkout module. I could have just closed everything but the checkout.js file, but I didn't. I closed it all and opened it again, just to explain that there is an option to just leave that one open, but we'll continue. Oh, we also need to replace our returned JSX code with Max's, so there's something else going on here. So again, I'll just go to the next one now, because for all we know, he could have jumped way ahead down here in the finished project, and we want to incrementally make these changes, but he has told me to copy the return. So we can see here, okay, so all we're doing extra is we've added the onSubmit handler here and hooked it up to this confirm handler. This confirm handler hasn't changed. We're just actually implementing it on submission of the form. We've added the class name classes.form, which was what I was getting at earlier on, that we did have a class.form, so therefore we probably should, but I thought just by taking out the dot it would have targeted this div, this tag, because without the dot it's a tag that you're going to, like if you just do p, that's all your p tags, so I thought that would have worked. Maybe it did, maybe I did something a bit loopy, something else loopy, but instead we have just added this class and kept the dot, and we're referring to an actual class in here, as we can see, .form. So that's the class name form, which we've added to our form. So great. But then we have our control classes, all of our different inputs and labels, and then we literally have just wrapped this in a overarching div, which is just all of our actions for our buttons, which is just what I did myself there. So look, we'll just copy this to be sure, the old Irish, to be sure. So I will paste that over our return statement. It looks even longer, but let's go. Is it just indented differently? Because I don't see anything else different, but cool about it. Let's save, let's take a look. Okay, so we have an error here now. Classes is not defined. And we can see here it's happening on loads of lines. So 10, 11, 15, 10, 11, 15, 19. And this is what it's referring to. And why we're getting that error is we've imported it with a different name. So all we need to do is replace that to classes, and it should be able to find everything now. And now if we take a look at our cart here, let's have an old goosey gander. Aha, look, and the style actually has changed. So we were missing something else on those buttons, and we've now added it in with our classes. So what could we have been missing? Well, this wasn't there anyway, our classes.submit, so that's another class that we've added, and it's just on the confirm button. So exactly, we can see that we had got the right styling on the cancel button, and the confirm button needed an extra class addition, which gave it the brown look. So we're getting on well. So let's continue. Yeah, and it's scrollable. Our form itself is scrollable. Does look okay, Max. You're a genius. Love Max. Yeah, cool. I was thinking that myself. So our form can get cut off, as we can see here. So we are going to change the height to 15 rem. Surely there's an even better way of doing that, I would have thought. Maximilian. So let's see. All these scroll bars everywhere. So this will need improvement. We do not need scroll bars all over the shop. and they're all over the shop. But we'll come back to that. For now, we're focusing on functionality. As you see, like, I'm just copying and pasting CSS here, and that's the instructions that I'm being given as well. And CSS is a very, very, very valuable skill. I mean, I certainly would spend time learning it, and should probably do another course in CSS because, you know, you need to know that as well. But I know enough to make my way around the town, and it's the logical, functional, React-based functionality that really I want to focus on, because that's what I need right now in my life, in my job. So we will continue. Cool. So what we're going to work on next is taking in the values that the user has entered. So actually, you know, doing two-way binding, it will be called in Angular. I'm not sure if the same terminology is used here, but you bind the value, you take note of what that event is, you pick it up in the component, you can do something with it, perform some validation, and then send back out the value to the input so it's reflected back on the screen. So that's what we're going to do. And then in the case that something is wrong, we can send an error message. And in the case that everything is right, we'll submit the request to the server. Okay, so we could get the values from this form on every single keystroke, just like as the user types in a key and we see the updates happening. But we have already seen that in a previous version, like in a previous day, we did do that. So what we're going to do this time is useREF in order to get the value instead. Excuse me. So in order to do that, we will import useREF, and as already discussed, we will keep our imports that are React related at the top, and then the component imports and then the CSS imports try and have a bit of structure there, just so when you look at a glance you know where your imports are coming from and what they are. So we'll put our import for our React useREF at the top here, ref with a capital R, and then this is going to be from good old React. That's all we need. And then we can actually use that within our function declaration for our component here. So let's go. And we'll call this const name input ref and useREF and our brackets, and we will duplicate this 4 times because what we want to do is also have street, postal code, city, and street, postal code, and city. That's it. So we'll say street input ref, street, postcode. So might just go PO, city. And then we can use these down below. So we add this ref to our various inputs here to hook these up. So on our input here, we can say ref equals and just give it that name that we've just created while you indentating. So there we go, name input ref. Here we will add ref is equal to, open up our object, a JSX notation, and paste in street input ref. Then we have our PO input ref. So ref equal to PO input ref, and then down here we are just going to have our city. So ref equals brackets, curly braces I should say, city input ref. Boom, bang, bash, bomb. Super. Great. So Cool. So then we can actually pull these different values in our event here. So when we press the submit button, we have the event coming through, which is the information that we are currently doing with this form. It's the event. So we can get that stuff from the event, from the input ref, because we created this reference that we can then access. So when we click the button, we get the refs from the ref that we have just added to all of these different inputs. So we'll create a constant in here for each of these. So we'll say entered name is equal to name input ref dot current dot value. So the current value of that, and the current dot value is on all of these different, is property on the ref. So that just comes with the refs. And then here we have our street. So I'm just gonna copy and paste because why not? And then our PO input ref and our city input ref. And then we can obviously change. We can't have all of these constants pointing to the same thing because they are constants, and that's not what we want anyway. I'm just like letting you guys know that wasn't the intended functionality. So then we have street, we have PO, ay, mamma mia, I did that wrong, it should be here. So entered street, and then we have entered PO, and then we have entered city, and P should be capitalized because let's use our, it's not camel case, it's not kebab case, this case, we're using that case. So just basically the first letter is small and the second one is large. Let's keep the same naming convention. So that's why it should be P, large P, small o, and then entered city, large C, small e over here. So small, big. That's the naming convention we're using for our constants. So coolaboola. Great. And now we can add validation that we have these constants being declared here from what's actually coming in. So we've grabbed the values now. We have the current dot value that was typed in when we submit the form. So once we filled everything out, we're grabbing them values with the use of useREF, and now we can perform validation on those inputted values. So we'll create another function here called const is empty, and this is just going to be an arrow function. So as always, bada bing bada boom, set that up. And then what this is going to do is take in the value and do a value.trim in order to check if the value is indeed empty. So we can do all this on one line. So we'll just say value, and we actually don't even need all these brackets because we are just going to do it on one line. So we can cut this down even more just because it's on a singular line. So we'll do value.trim, and that doesn't mean you can make this line like really long and add a load of things. I'm not sure exactly what the requirements are for these one line functions, but like you'd want to be doing something simple, you know. Well, maybe you can have an and statement in there. So let's say and not a. Looks like that's valid too, or does it? I don't know. Maybe you just need to be looking at one thing here. I'm not really sure, but because it is pretty simple, it can all go on one line and you can drop all of the brackets and stuff. That's the 6 shorthand way for small functions, but I don't know what exactly constitutes a small function is what I'm trying to say there. But just if it's really small, then you know you can use it. That's enough for me. So then we're also going to check that it's not 5 characters because it seems like a strange one, but Max is obviously just showing us some examples here. This could be whatever you want. You can make this is not one char, you know, or not as many chars as you like. How could that be the only example I could think of? So again, we'll take in our value, we'll do an arrow, and this is going to be value dot trim, and the parentheses here are very important. We're running the trim function on this value. Without them, you will get errors. So then we'll do dot length. I'll take them out now in a moment and show you. I got stuck on that in a previous lecture because I just was typing too quick and I forgot them, but then I couldn't figure out the error. So if I save here, now because I'm just declaring this as a constant, it might not give us an error until we actually try and run it. Or maybe, so yeah, we haven't got the error yet because we haven't come into this piece of code. All we've done is just declared that. But as soon as we try and actually run this or use this, we'll get an error. So I'll just leave it there because it's not causing any problems, and then you'll see what type of error this causes. So me and you next time around will both be, that error won't take us by surprise. We will have seen it already. So super duper. Yep. And now we can use both of those helper functions that we just created in order to validate our different fields here. So we'll come in here to our confirm handler. We'll create another constant, and this is going to be called entered name is valid. Perfect. And we will equal this to is empty. So it is not empty, and check for the entered name. And I can duplicate these for all of our different fields, inputs that we have. So duplicate. So this will be entered street is valid. This will be entered PO is valid. This will be entered city is valid. And for all of these, we want to check is empty, apart from the last one, because for this one, we're going to check that it has at least 5 characters, which makes sense, or the postcode, for the postcode, so this one. And just to keep things looking a bit, I'll move this down here because it just is a bit of a nicer flow from my eyeballs. So we'll continue on. Okay, so yes, Max was saying that this might be a bit confusing, like not is empty, not is not 5 chars. So, well, this one in particular, because we have like 2 nots, so what we can do instead for is not 5 chars is just check is it 5 chars and make this equal to 5. And then what we want to do is say if it is not 5 chars, so is 5 chars will return true if it is 5 characters, otherwise it will return false. So now we're saying if it is not 5 characters, let us know. Entered PO box will then be evaluated to false if this, in that case, let's see. I think I also need to remove the not. Yes. Yeah, I also need to remove this not. So if it is not 5 characters, now this is truthy. So if it is 5 characters, this will evaluate to true, and then our entered PO box will be valid. This will also evaluate to true. If it is anything other than 5 characters, because this is a definite, this is saying if it's definitely 5. So if it is 5 characters, if we've entered in exactly 5, then this will be truthy. This will be true, and that wouldn't work for an Irish postcode. Just as a side note, so I guess postcodes are English. We have air codes in Ireland. So alright, you can keep your code. I'll do one for air codes. No, I'm only messing. So we'll continue on here with an English accent. Funnily enough, I decided to do that particular line. Anyway, cool. Perfect. So now we have these 4 helper functions which are checking if these different input fields are indeed valid, and now we can just combine all these together to check if the form is valid. So we'll say const is form valid, and what we will do here is say entered name. If entered name is valid, and it must be an and, not an or, because they all must be valid. So if entered name is valid, if entered street is valid, and if entered city is valid, and if entered PO is valid. Perfect. So now if all of these things are valid, the and means explicitly, yes, all of them together, and it's not an or. It's not if entered name is valid or entered street is valid. And an or would be denoted like this, which means it's one or. That's not how it's denoted. It would be denoted like this. So if one or the other was valid, so therefore if entered name was valid but entered street wasn't, the form would still be valid. But here we are saying and, so it must, and they both must be valid. So everything here must be valid in order for is form is valid to be set to true, and therefore in order for the form to be valid, basically. Cool. So now what we're going to do is that we have this boolean that's going to be switched on and off in the case that the form is valid. We can create an if loop here and say here and say if is form valid. So if the form is valid, is the form valid? If form valid, then we can submit the form to the server. Perfect. Or submit the cart data. Same thing, the form or all the information coming from the cart. So perfect, guys. Look, we've just hit the hour, and as always, it is my absolute pleasure to code with you guys. Absolutely love it and love yous. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it so much, and have an absolutely stunning, wonderful, beautiful day. Do join me again tomorrow for the same old rigmarole, and do join me as well on my channel for more tutorial based videos where I'm not just coding along, I'm actually explaining concepts. And please do like and subscribe if you like my content, because it means the world to me and more people can see the content as a result. So thank you. Peace. Have a beautiful day.